do with the risk. So what you guys are going to look at is the RVC password policy. There's a link there that you'll look at, and then you'll ask yourself a question. When a person registers RVC, they're given an account for RVC Eagle, email communication, and online services, which you guys access all of those. Online services you access for registering, right? Here in a few weeks you'll be doing that. And then email, your RVC email for regular email, and then your RVC Eagle for classes. So here's the questions: is the RVC account password policy secure? So you just kind of read it, figure out what you think about it as far as is the steps they take to, when you become a student, are you forced to change it every semester? That's a question to ask. Is it easy to find a policy? And maybe ask around in the next, because you'll have from Thursday, and I'm going to actually bump this one up to the following Sunday, I think. I'm going to change the due date. So you'll have some chance to maybe ask some students you take other courses with, like, hey, how do you change your password? Or, do you know what a secure password is? I'm needing some help, something like that. Just kind of inquiry students. And it can be from any class. It doesn't have to be a technical class. It can be an English class or humanities. And then second question is, how can this account policy be exploited, or can it be, or can it not be? Because you guys do have just your S numbers. Is it easy to figure out a person's password, their default password, when they become a student? That's a question to ask. What do you have to do? What's the process you have to go through to get a password changed? And so questions like that, and I'll give you the due date. I will change. I have October 16th. I'm going to change that, bump it up another week, so you have some more time to play with it. I think it's a good exercise to kind of go through the steps. And what you're going to come out together with at the end is identify the risk, and you'll come up with your own solutions that maybe can be implemented. What we do each semester is I take that information and give it to IT, and over the years they have slowly implemented some of these ideas that students have had. So an example was years ago we all used to be on for our authentication. When I started, our default password, your default password, student's default password was your social security number. That's not good. And then it went from that to birth date. That's easy to figure out. And so we've gotten much better over the years with password security, but there's probably some more things we could be doing, like, I don't think you're forced to change your password at any point. You weren't as of last semester anyway. And so I think you can probably keep it from it forever. So that might be a question to ask or thought you might bring into it. Tech Expo on the 25th. We've got 102 registered. I got all the room situation. You guys, I think I told you, did I tell you last week I'm going to have you guys help me that night? So what we'll do when we get on the 25th, that Tuesday, which is 2 weeks from tonight, we'll all gather here, walk over there, and make sure all the table tents and tables are all set up. I'll have pizza there for you guys to eat, to help me out. And then it starts at 6. If you don't have a class after this class, you can definitely welcome to stay and listen to the speakers and maybe win a prize, possibly the iPad Mini and 4 credit hours, and a couple other tech gadgets will be given away. So if you're not yet registered, do that. Even though you guys are all going with me. Jobs, there's 3 part-time or 1 part-time job, 2 full-time jobs still open, and this is on my RVC. The top one I think is still open. I don't think she's filled it yet. It's the Rock River Water Reclamation District. They need a part-time person, like a help desk person.
I have an interview with them tomorrow.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to talk anymore about that one then. Okay. I hope you get it. The next is a graphic designer vinyl installer. As of yesterday, it was still open. This is Photoshop skills. So if you have that, you might be interested in that. It's a paid position, flexible with your school hours. They did say they'd work around your school hours, so that's nice. back down. Let's see if this will work. There we go. And then the last one is Meridian Pre-Press. They also need a graphic designer. This one is full-time though. It's and it's not real flexible in hours at all, but it's 7:30 to 4:30, or they said 8 to 5, one of the two, Monday through Friday. They're a good company, and they do signs, banners, brochures, stuff like that. Really busy place. And if you yourself are interested or know somebody that's a graphic designer here at school, or they are self-taught even, that's fine. They just need somebody that knows Photoshop again, and that's it. So those 3 jobs are on there. Hour of Code is full for this month, which is the 4th Saturday, but I could use 1 volunteer for that. So if you go to the rbchourofcode.com website, there is a help button here. If you click on the help button, it's going to take you to a page where you can fill out your email, name, what day you want to help, or dates. We have the October date, which is the 22nd, 9 to 10 a.m., and then December 3rd, 3 time slots there, 9, 10, 11, and 12. It's a lot of fun. It's just for an hour, and you know, we have age ranges. We fill up the Mac lab downstairs. One funny story is I have a grandpa that brings his 2 grandkids every time. He's been bringing them for the last year and a half. He brings them every month. He's usually here before I am. He's in the parking lot. They're usually at McDonald's when I get here, and they always show up, and they do whatever I have to offer for the hour of code. That's what they do, and they're always happy. And the kids are great. Grandpa's great. But it's a lot of fun. I think the age range I've had thus far, the youngest I've had is 4 years old, and they did complete it. And the oldest I had was 86. What's really fun is a lot of these families will leave after the hour and go home and keep coding because they can go to this website, and there's tons of, I'll just show you some of the coding exercises. It's drag and drop coding too, by the way, called Blockly, which schools like MIT, Harvard use this for all it's a required course. And basically what it is a drag and drop blocks that is converted. It shows them after they drag and drop a block for each puzzle what it would look like in JavaScript if they were to write that code. But stuff like, you know, move up, move down, left, right. It does have you teach some loops and iterations. But Star Wars is the popular one. Minecraft, that's the most popular one. Flappy Bird, you remember that game? Frozen, Classic Maze, Disney's Infinity Lab, Lightbot, and Build an iPhone Game, and Intro to JavaScript. And so at the end of the lab, they actually get a certificate of completion, and they can, I take a picture of them at the front of the class like that, and the app they created actually functions on an iPhone or a Droid. So at the end of it, they can send it to any phone or any social media site, and people can click on it and play their game. So the last puzzle, most of them have like a 12 puzzle level, and the very last puzzle, they can do whatever they want to. Create whatever type of game they want to or app they want to, and then send it to anybody. So that's kind of cool. So you guys can go on there yourself and play with it and see if you'd be interested. And I've had students not even go on the site or even know anything about coding that have come and helped volunteer, because all you're going to do is help pass out handouts and help people with, you know, how to, you know, use a computer basically. You know, because some of them are literally that novice with computers. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. So if you're interested, definitely go to rbchourofcode.com, help. And if you are interested too, I'm looking for next semester some student teachers or leaders for the course. So if you're interested in leading a course next semester, that would be kind of awesome. We had last semester a student go to Jefferson once a week, Jefferson High School, and he taught the hour of code every week to about 30 Jefferson High School students from like 3:30 to 4:30. He did it for a whole semester, so yeah, a lot of flexibility to it. And it's basically just to kind of demystify computer science, get people interested in coding, and the target audience definitely K through 12, but anybody can learn at any age. I've known developers that haven't started learning developing until 40, 50 years old and done fine. So, questions on that? RBC Hour of Code. Hack Night, we changed it from weekly to monthly, just because that's what everybody wanted to do. The first 3 or 4 weeks went pretty good attendance-wise, and then people just, it just had too much going on. And so we changed it to monthly now, the fourth Wednesday of every month. This upcoming one, one of the members, one of the guys that sits here, you met him, he invented a scale, he used a robot, not Android, it starts with an A. You can buy kits to do it. It's ANDRUID or something like that. But anyway, it's a mechanism that weighs whatever. It's a scale to weigh packages. And he added to it lasers. He got 7 or 8 lasers that the lasers measure the width, length, and height of the package. Then it saves it into a database and calculates a cost. And he actually has it functioning at a local firm here in town. But he's a bus driver, retired, and this is what he does. And he does this part-time and makes pretty good money at it. So he's going to demo the next session, the fourth Wednesday, that device. So that'll be pretty cool. But you're more than welcome to come. We come and just hang out from 6 to 8, eat pizza. And not every month somebody does something. They're going to present something. Some months we'll just come in and work on projects. A couple of projects we have working on is high school students attending, and Brandon White that works, he's an RBC student, he works at Ebates, and he's teaching them some coding. And we have some people that are in the field here in Rockford that are teaching some people some languages like C#, and so a whole bunch of different things going on. So recommend going. It's definitely worth going. Would you say it's worth going?
Yeah.
I know you've been. Your mom even came once.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun. And so you can even bring your parents. Yeah, they can eat pizza and hang out. And so tonight we're going to talk about wireless networking. And how many has a wireless network at home? Almost everybody does, right? Okay, cool. We're going to talk about that. And we have a number of them here on campus, a number of different wireless networks. In fact, just today I was talking to Brett Quebec. He's over our Wi-Fi network, and they're doing all their modeling here in the building. Well, one of the things that they had to add to the basement anyway was a new access point. And I use my iPad each week. Well, a lot of faculty are using them as well. They're on campus, and we can mirror our iPads wirelessly in most of the classrooms. I don't, but in a lot of my classrooms I do. We can mirror them to the overhead without any wires connected like I do here. But it's not yet set up down there. There's some coding to do, and he can't just do it. He has to have a faculty submit a ticket that it needs to be done. So even though I don't teach down there, I submitted a ticket for him today after he called me, and he's starting to get it implemented. So mirroring devices, by the way, is something you can do in your home network. You can mirror on most of your smart TVs. You can mirror with like a Chromecast device. It's like $30. You can plug in your HD TV and mirror your smart tablet to your device, or even your laptop. Pretty cheap for $30. If you have an Apple TV, they're like about $100. You can do mirroring with that as well. But I have heard a lot. Anybody got a Chromecast, by the way, at home? A Chromecast stick? The other one that works, I think I've heard, is Amazon Fire Stick. Does the same deal. You can mirror with that as well. But it's all using Wi-Fi to do this. So we're going to talk about different types of Wi-Fi, security weaknesses, strengths, vulnerabilities, how it can be penetration tested and hardened as well. So wireless data is revolutionized because we can, do whatever we do anywhere we're going. Now, sometimes, as we were talking earlier, wireless networks can be kind of choppy. They can be kind of weak at times. But, could you imagine, or it would be hard to imagine, a world without wireless? just because we're so kind of, you know, in need of it all the time, right? We're just used to having it. And so because of that, though, it's everywhere. It's literally, you could probably say wireless networks are probably used, and I could probably say this with most assurity, like 90% surety, it's probably used more so in the world today than wired networks, if you think about it. So if hackers are going to attack a certain type of network, wireless makes sense to do. And so because of that, the Wi-Fi standards have increased as far as security goes. And just so you know, as far as the folks that do the testing for new standards, it's mainly military. I've had for a number of semesters in the last 20 years students in the military that have worked in IT in military, and I had a student a few semesters back that actually he was an encryption specialist, and that's what he did. He tested new Wi-Fi standards in the field before they were released to the U.S. public. And so they're usually 2 or 3 levels ahead of us, which they should be as far as security goes. And so he was telling me, with that, you know, he couldn't tell me for sure because it's top secret, but I don't have that level of security. But he was saying on average it's anywhere from 3 to 5 years ahead of time is what they're generally working on. What was kind of eye-opening was, I thought, well, you guys use it in the field, right? He goes, nope. Even though it's 3 to 5 years ahead of time, it's still not yet at the level of security to where it's impenetrable enough to use in active war or active communication in wartime, which I thought was interesting. And so we're getting better, but it can still be even the hardest, password and encryption can be hacked fairly quickly. Just like that WPA2 when I did, it didn't go in here, but it went on in the house a couple times and in here a couple times before the class started. I think the shortest time I could do one was like about 30 minutes, something like that. And so, it can still be hacked fairly simply. And so because of that, it's not used in the wartime still. So early wireless networking standards had vulnerabilities like WEP. You've heard of WEP probably. We'll talk a little bit about that. It was the very first protocol in wireless security. Very easy because the passwords were pretty much sent along the wireless channels in clear text for the most part. And if you could figure out the key to that WEP channel, you could hack the password pretty easily. Because you could have up to 4 keys per channel, per password, and all you do is figure out what the key was and pack it. Change in wireless network yielded security comparable to wired, and it is comparable today to wired, but I would say the level of security is probably still not there for enterprise level things. That's why we still use VPN in our wireless communications. So can we have the extra layer of security just in case it is hacked? And so companies that like salespeople use Wi-Fi all the time, and you might yourself been in sales or somebody in your family, and they're constantly using Wi-Fi to communicate with email, but they're generally, when they're on the road, connected to VPN all the time. They're VPNing in directly to their company's server, and it's like a tunnel, and anything that tries to and penetrate that tunnel pretty much bounces off of it with that VPN tunnel. And Cisco is definitely the #1 provider of VPN technologies, and Apple devices are actually the lone device to use that VPN client for the next 10 years at least. They have an agreement for 10 years at least. That's why you guys probably don't, you probably wonder why droids aren't used more so in corporate offices and businesses. That's why. It's because the VPN client is Cisco, and they only work with iOS devices. Apple likes that, Cisco likes that, but and droids are doing fine, by the way. They're still selling like crazy through the phone companies. Bluetooth. You might have never figured this or thought of this, but even Bluetooth is a pretty common way to when you think of Bluetooth, what devices do you think of? Earpiece. What else, you guys? And you probably use them at home, maybe. Huh?
Controllers.
Controllers, Bluetooth for sure. Anything else you can think of?
know my Nest smoke detector
Headphones?
does?
What is it?
The Nest smoke detector uses...
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, and then like wireless speakers, that's a big fad right now, right? Everything, Bluetooth wireless is huge. So Bluetooth is perfect for the device we just talked about. It's ad hoc, easy to connect. Years ago, you had to enter a code in, but you don't have to do that anymore, I don't believe, on any devices. It just sees it, you tap connect, and if it's in the range, you can connect to it. And so it's actually called a personal area network. And when you're connected to a Bluetooth network, you can do the same thing that you would do on any other type of network. You can, share internet, you can share files, you can do all of that stuff with Bluetooth. And since it's ad hoc, it's in close proximity. So it's not real, you can't do it for a long distance. So like within 30 feet generally. Two types of Bluetooth technologies for topologies would be PicoNet and ScatterNet. And so PicoNet basically, by the way, is a smaller one, kind of like in this room. If I had a speaker up here and you were all connected or were listening to it, connected to Bluetooth, be a headset or something, that would be a PicoNet, very small. Pico is tiny in Spanish and Greek. And then the other one, the ScatterNet, is more multiplex type of Bluetooth, to where you have different types of devices in different regions. So here's some categories and types of usage. Probably all of these you're familiar with, even all the way down to medical and health. Blood pressure monitors now can work with smartphones for sending emergency information to the doctor, and diabetic tools as well for folks with type 2, type 1 diabetes. You might know some people have like a sensor that they wear for diabetes. Those can work with Bluetooth on a phone in an emergency, send a 911 call. If you know anybody that has one, it beeps when they get low in blood sugar, and they get so low it could actually send out an all call with coordinates of where they're located at, which is, in some cases could be a lifesaver for sure. If you've known anybody, I have people in my family with diabetes, it can be pretty scary when they go real low, like, they go into like coma type when they go real low. And so fitness is another one. Gaming's already been talked about in here, where you can have multiple devices, controllers for controlling gaming. Computer accessories, mouse and keyboard. Cameras now even have ability for Bluetooth pairing. Home entertainment, and wireless hands-free for sure in your car. So PicoNet basically is where two devices coming in range of the other, one device master and the other slave. Like if this was a master up here of a sound system and you all were wearing Bluetooth headsets to connect to it, you could do that and connect to this master device. The slave will take commands. Active slave can send transmissions like turn up the volume, turn down the volume, stuff like that. Change a channel maybe if you're one-to-one. Park slaves are connected but not actively participating, and that could be to where you can tell which device can control other devices. So here's an example of a PicoNet, a master with multiple active slaves, and then a master with some park slaves and an active slave. And so off the top of my head, speakers definitely fit that, but I'm sure there's other uses. Gaming devices, I guess, could be that as well. If we had, like, say, an active slave would be like remotes for your gaming system, and the master would be your gaming system. Yeah, that would work. And so if you have PS2, Xbox or whatever, that would make sense. Or any of your like Roku devices or TV devices that have Bluetooth could fall into that right one. Master being that device, that game console, and the AS being the actual controllers to control the game. ScatterNet is a group of PicoNets that are connected together. And so bluejacking, you might have heard of this. It's actually popular on the Droid side, where folks can download an app to do this, where attack will send an unsolicited message to any Bluetooth-enabled device that's turned on, and can push to that device text messages, images, and sounds, which can be pretty scary sometimes if you think about it. And so, and you know, most all people leave their Bluetooth on all the time. They never turn it off. Now you might, but majority of Americans, majority of people in the world don't. And so there are, that's one reason why you probably don't want to root a Droid device or jailbreak an iOS device, because if you do for either one, you could be susceptible to a lot of bluejacking. And bluejacking is going to mainly happen in public areas, right? Like clubs, restaurants, public places, it's going to definitely happen in. But even in college campuses, it can happen as well. A kid could be playing around, sending messages and things to people to annoy them. And it is considered more annoying than harmful. It's not going to harm anything. It's just going to annoy people by data being sent. So on a scatter net, basically you've got usually in a scatter net in the middle an active slave that's connecting the two masters is what you have. And so an example on that one I'm trying to think would be on Bluetooth. There are some game consoles that allow you to have certain devices connected that can control other devices. That might be an example maybe of a scatter net, but for the most part it's probably not used much just because it's not needed to be used much, but it could be. And in gaming would be the only I could think of off the top of my head. BlueSnarfing is unauthorized wireless information sent to Bluetooth information, often between cell phone and laptops. Attacker can take information on this one. Just by walking by and connecting with the right app, they could copy emails, contacts, without the owner's knowledge. And that's called BlueSnarfing. If you Google BlueSnarfing apps, there's tons of apps for these in the Droid world, but the phone, I believe, needs to be rooted first. It needs to be opened and rooted is what they call it on the Droid side. And so I don't believe, I might be wrong, but I don't believe in the general app store for the Droid market these are allowed anymore. I don't believe so. If they're found, they're taken off. Because I know I've submitted a few apps to the Droid market, and they're starting to be more strict on the apps that people submit now, which is a good thing in the marketplace. I think it's a good thing. It's a long time coming, and so if people, complain about an app or whatever, I've heard they take it off pretty quickly. But that doesn't mean if you have a rooted Droid device, you can't get it in other locations for those rooted marketplaces, which I don't recommend it. You really don't need to do it today. Like when Droids first came out, there might have been some features people wanted, but for the most part, I think you're good with the regular lockdown Droid device to do pretty much most of the stuff you want to do. The only reason people want to root a device, a couple reasons, is to do things malicious or get apps that maybe aren't on the marketplace that the developers just don't want to put there. They don't want to mess with it. And so they put it on these, you can literally just email you an app and you can open it up from your phone on a Droid. And so that's one reason why too. So it's not always bad, it's just people don't want to mess with the Droid marketplace. And so, but anyway, people I know that use Droid a lot say there's really no reason in their mind to have to root anymore. And really for safety's sake, I'd say don't do it. ITripleE, as far as LAN attacks, ITripleE has been one of the leading group to help give us the tools globally to handle wireless attacks and wireless communication standards. They started in '84, the most influential group in the computer networking and wireless communication. They do meet here, by the way, on campus about 4 to 5 times a semester, and you can join the ITripleE. There is a student chapter. If you Google ITripleE student chapter, you can join it, find out when their meetings are, and start attending. And so it does cost a little bit, but it's much less than a normal member, and you get a lot of cool stuff. You get a lot of access to all their online educational resources. You can go to like their conferences, and they actually do have some really good meetings. Like the last one they had, they demoed the really popular home devices that turn on your lights that some of you might have. In fact, the one I have at the house, it's $50 for the device. You plug it in, it's a box, and I'll find it here and tell it what it is, and I recommend it. I got it, actually, this one I actually got at Walmart, right? They're normally like 40, 50 bucks, but they were on clearance. The one I bought for 10 bucks. And so I got it, and it's called the Wemo, W-E-M-O. And I definitely recommend it. It's a little square box you plug in your wall, and then you can buy lights for the Wemo that you can plug in any normal light socket, and you can control the Wemo from your Droid or iOS, or control the lights from your Droid or iOS. But they have other things too. You can they have Wemo devices for thermostat in the house, Wemo devices for locking doors, Wemo devices for cameras, remote cameras. So a lot of cool stuff. And the devices aren't that expensive. Like the cameras are about 30, 40 bucks on average. The lock door things, like they have one for like 50 bucks that you can buy. And so, but it works really well. It, you can, the way I have it set up, I schedule the lights to go on and off certain times of the day. And then what's cool about Wemo is you can tie in an app called If This Then That, and actually have it do, the lights do certain things when you get an email or when, from a certain person. So if I get an email from my kids, I can have the lights actually dim for a second and come back on brightness. Or if you're expecting a certain email, you can have it do that as well. So that's kind of cool. And so you can really geek out with these too, by the way. They have a lot of cool apps that you can play with. I think I drove my wife nuts the first week I set it up because there's the lights were flickering, going on and off, you know, all this stuff. And if you have the right light bulbs, you can even change the hue of the light bulb to different colors. And so, but this group created the Wi-Fi standards, ITripleE. Definitely recommend you joining their students chapter. And then they came out with the first Wi-Fi standard in '97, which was ITripleE 802.11. And we're still in the 802.11 family. We're now in the letter N. We are going now beyond that in the future. But letter N is the fastest one, the newest one. And they've had different iterations of N. And it's 802.11b. Then A was first, then B. A was actually 54 megabits per second. G, which was right before N, had the stability of B and A, but faster. But it was still, I believe, only at 54 megabits per second at the G. And then N, this chapter here doesn't have the speeds, but I believe the latest N speeds are close to 450, 500 megabits per second, up to a gigabit per second on some of the new Wi-Fi routers. And so that's pretty quick for Wi-Fi. So improvements since 11N, speed, coverage, interference, and security. And interference means it's less interference, like with electrical surges, other signals around it, electromagnetic fields. Even your own body creates electromagnetic fields all the time. My grandpa was an engineer by trade and a physicist, and I remember as a kid he used to he was teaching me like magnetic force of the world. And as a kid you're like, you know, just looking at his grandpa, you know, whatever your grandpa says goes. But I remember I was totally bored. He was telling me about electricity one time, and I was totally lost until he took two magnets, and you know where I'm going, put them together, and started moving one magnet towards the other, and the other magnet started moving before it got there. And in between that is that electrical magnetic field that we don't see that's everywhere. That type of thing's in your house as well. Anything that has some type of motor, so your microwave, your garage door opener can bring interference to your Wi-Fi. So if you're on your phone on Wi-Fi and you start a popcorn on your microwave, that could cause interference. I've seen wireless channels on a wireless Wi-Fi devices in your house for sound cause interference as well. But N is much better than what prior ones were, G and B and A. All you need to do to work on a Wi-Fi is have some type of interface card, and all your laptops have them, your mobile phones have them, desktops, tablets, and all it does is send and receive signals. Need an access point as well. The access point used to have antennas on them. They don't anymore. If you go out and buy a new access point, I'm sure if you have a newer one at your house, it doesn't have antennas on it anymore. They're actually pretty strong, built into the device. The antennas, though, serve as a transmitter receiver, sending and receiving wireless signals. Some type of software to interface with the device that's going to be on your phone, laptop, desktop, tablet. And then wired network interface allows you to connect by cable to standard wired. What that means is your wireless access points generally have 4 ports in the back where you can connect a wired network into it. And so if you have a gaming console at home, I recommend using one of those 4 ports versus a wired connection, because it'll be much faster connection for you and more reliable on a game console. Also, if you're using video streaming, like video conferencing, wired is better than wireless for video conferencing. But movies and music is fine with wireless streaming anymore. The functions of an access point is basically the base station for connecting all the wireless devices. And you've seen this. You have this like at your house. You have your access point somewhere in your house. Connected to the access point is your modem somewhere in that piece. And you might have connected to it a desktop computer wired into it, or you might just have all of them wireless connected to it. And once they're connected and one time your device remembers it, and all you have to do is walk into that area and you're connected. So some of the functions of an access point, when it says serves as a bridge, you can really see this on your laptop or desktop. If you're connected to wireless, you can actually see a bridge in between your NIC card, your real NIC card, your physical NIC card is connected to Ethernet, and your wireless NIC card. There'll actually be a device called Bridge in there that Windows will create by default, to where whether you're on wired or wireless, you can share internet with others that connect to you. The other one is autonomous access point. This is separate from other devices. They have intelligence for wireless, auto encryption, and management. And they actually have devices you can plug in. I've got a few of them. I can plug them into any computer, and within seconds, an access point is started. Just a USB thumb drive is all it is. An access point is started, and I can connect to that access point with wireless, with internet connectivity. And so they're really nice to have in a pinch when you're needing Wi-Fi, like say in a hotel or your place of work or a meeting, and you can share your connection. And so autonomous access points are becoming real popular. You don't have to configure anything. They're already pre-configured when you plug them in. And they use a wired desktop or a wired network to get the internet connection, basically. Wireless broadband routers, these are kind of like you have at home. They have a built-in firewall, a DHCP server built into it, and really out of the box, all you have to do is set the password, set the security, and that's it, and you're good to go. Wireless networks have been vulnerable to attacks. So type of LAN attacks would be discovering the network, which you can use apps like Wireshark to do that easily. Attacks from RF spectrum and involving access points. RF spectrum is where it actually can attack the packets and infiltrate the packets to, I think I told you in that hack lab where we attempted to get the wireless password. The RF spectrum is getting the data. I said we had to get above 5,000 bytes of data in order to have good packets to pull from. That's your RF spectrum attack. where hackers will push data to a Wi-Fi access point, like by downloading videos, downloading large files. That will create our spectrums to create quicker. Discovering the network, one of the first steps in an attack, you need to know where the network is, what the IP address is. Beaconing. Most all your access points have this turned on, and all it means is when you're connected to the device, that when you're in your network, it's constantly looking for an access point. And if it's not beaconed, your devices can't see it. And so beaconing is generally turned on all the time, and it's constantly pinging out there that I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, all the time to devices to see. Ward driving, we've done this one in this room on a Saturday. I have students come, and we can, and if you guys are interested, we could do this semester. It just takes a couple hours. But basically show up, and we drive around Rockford within a 5-mile radius of the building, and use phones and tablets and laptops and a few apps on both those devices to gather access point information. And then we come back and see which ones are open, which ones are secure. All it's doing is discovering the world of Wi-Fi around you. So, and in Vegas, by the way, they have yearly a Wi-Fi ward drive event. And what they do at the end of the event is they give a report to all the businesses of the health of their Wi-Fi. So over the years, it's gotten better, meaning it's more secure, which is good, less open access points, which is good. But here's some more driving tools on the overhead. Mobile devices. You can have a mobile device with a NIC card, can be used for ward driving. You can put antennas on top of a car, and there's tons of apps can be used on a mobile device, both on iOS and Android, to just gather access point information. That's all it's doing. It's not really in the business of hacking anything. It's just gathering information. Wireless NIC card, you got to have that. You got to have an antenna of some type to get stronger signals from the access points around you, because you're driving down the road generally when you're doing this. So you have to have a kind of a stronger antenna. Software, tons of different types of software can be used. And then global GPS can also be used. GPS, what's nice about it is on some of these softwares, at the end of your journey of your ward drive, when you come back, it actually puts little pins all along your journey of where you went, and the pins represent the access points that were found. And you can actually hover over the pins, and it'll tell you the access point IP address and what the level of security was on it. So it was web security, WPA security, open, whatever. The other one is ward chalking. This is a documented and advertised location of where lands are at in the world. Previously done by drawing on sidewalks. You guys did when you were kids. Today locations are on websites. And so there's websites actually you can go to show you ward chalking. I'll try to bring one up here real quick that we use on those Saturday events. So let me see if I can bring it up on the overhead for you. Let's see. Because what this app does, if I can find it here, it actually, you can type in any address, and from that address, it'll show you open access points. There it is, wiggle.net. So let's see if I can open it up here. I'm going to couple more slides. Ward chalking we already talked about. R spectrum we talked about a little bit, but R spectrum is used, the way you find out R spectrum attacks, how they happen is like Wireshark is a popular one, where you can get the protocol analyzer, generate traffic, and through pinging the server, pinging the IP address of the access point, and basically what's going to happen here is it's going to generate interference all the time. Scrambler. you've heard of scramblers maybe for cell phones. There's also such a creature as scramblers for access points. And it's RF spectrum causes a scrambling effect to happen. But during the effect of the scrambling, data is being collected, and then that's where passwords can be found, the hackers gather. Because during the whole time of what happens when you lose, what's the human nature thing to do? If you lose your access point at home, meaning it drops from your device, what's the first thing you do when that happens? If it drops, it's no longer there, and you're like, "Whoa, I don't have an internet." Oh, do what now?
Go check your Wi-Fi adapter.
Go check your Wi-Fi adapter. What's another thing you do too? If you've disconnected, do you do what next?
Try to reconnect.
Try to reconnect, right? And people, human nature, will try to reconnect like a whole bunch of times, right? And guess what? You'll also sometimes do this. People do this. They'll disconnect, log off, get it out of your system altogether, that SSID, and then re-authenticate, right? They'll do that. Now think about this. When they do that during an RF spectrum attack, the hackers know that, and they will use that data knowing that most of the time people will, after a period of time, say if you do it for 10, 15 minutes, this RF spectrum attack, will try to take their SSID out, get rid of it, authenticate back in. When you authenticate back in, that's when our spectrum gets the SSID or the password of that device during that attack. So I guess a word of warning is if that happens at home or in a business, at your home you can basically, I would check your router first and restart it. Just restart your router. It takes a second to do. Restart it. Because if there is an attack occurring, like an RF spectrum attack on a router, restarting will kill that attack. It has to be reinitiated the next time, each time. It doesn't just restart. And so generally what hackers will do is they'll do an RF spectrum scan and just do a whole bunch of access points in a neighborhood or in a place of business. And if you restart a router, restart an access point, that kills that attack from coming back. Now one of the things you can do to ward this attack from not happening, most of your access points and most of your routers will have an RF spectrum deterrent that will detect these attacks and stop them from happening. And I'm guessing most of your access points today, if they're within a year old, 2 years old, probably have that turned on already. 6 modes with your wireless NIC as far as how it can act. It can be a master acting as an access point, meaning I can set mine up as an ad hoc access point, my tablet. I can share my tablet wireless access with everybody. I can be a client, like I am right now, just getting information connected to the RBC network. I can be a repeater, repeating my network to other devices. A mesh, meaning I can be in a group of devices connected. Ad hoc, already talked about. And monitoring on wireless is you're just monitoring traffic is all you're doing. Then interference is basically signals from other devices that can disrupt your signal and transmission. Device that cause your interference, and we'll end on this, is microwave ovens, elevator motors, copy machines, outdoor lighting like your street lamps. Street lamps are pretty powerful. Your outdoor street lamps, you can hear it at night. Kick on. They have huge motors in them, and if you stand by a street lamp with your phone or any Wi-Fi device, you'll see a degradation in service and degradation in your connection. Theft protection devices, car theft protection, home theft protection, and then other Bluetooth devices can also, like every device we have in our home pretty much anymore is Bluetooth, as far as even our remotes, right? A lot of them are Bluetooth, and they can travel on certain channels that your Wi-Fi travels on. If it's a case, like if it's channel 6, right, which is a popular Bluetooth channel, if your Wi-Fi is on channel 6, that can interfere with your Wi-Fi and cause drops at times, degradation of speed. And the fix for that, by the way, is just changing your channel and your Wi-Fi access point to something like 11 or 12, which Bluetooth never falls on, 11 and 12. That's a real quick fix. And so if you have, most of you probably have at least 4, 5, 6 remotes around the house. A lot of them working on Bluetooth or RF technology, and they all travel on certain gigahertz channels wirelessly. It's kind of like air traffic control. You don't see it, but there's tons of data being moved all the time in the air, and the channels just represent different levels of altitude that those channels fall on in the room. And you just move it to a different channel, then it works. Okay, so we'll end with this screen of an attacker device flooding an access point, and notice the laptop can't connect, and I already told you what human nature is. Try to reconnect them umpteen times, and not only reconnect, but during that reconnect, they're trying every password they can think of. So not only getting one password for the access point, they're probably getting passwords for all other types of accounts that they're doing it, because it's been proven that within about 2-minute time period, most people, when they forget a password, whether it's an attack reasoning or they literally forgot it, will try every other password they've ever remembered in their life in the next 2 to 3 minutes, right? And just because of that, hackers know that, they're gathering tons of passwords, and then all they need beyond that is an email. That's it. And then they can try every type of account that a person could go into. Banks, social media, and so within 24 hours they could be accessing a lot of stuff from that attack interference attack. So real quick, to end on it, hardening or warding against this attack happening to you, restart your access point. If you have interference at home, restart your access point, change a channel of your access point to something different if it's constantly happening. And you can also check the settings on your access point to make sure that your firewall in your access point is turned on and set to all the default settings, which one of them should be RF spectrum, to where it's not going to allow RF spectrum type of attack. Make sense? Pretty simple, right? Most of you probably have never messed with the firewall settings, but if you do, that can sometimes open the door up for, like an example, I know sometimes people will go into the firewall settings of their access point for gaming because they need all ports open or they need all access for gaming. An easy workaround for that is you can use your DMZ port on your Wi-Fi router for your game console. And what's going to happen is if you use a DMZ port for your Wi-Fi, for your access point to your game console for gaming, it's going to open you all your ports that you need. It's not going to put any restrictions on it, but it's going to isolate. That DMZ is totally separated from your network. It's going to isolate, your DMZ is going to be isolated from all your internal network traffic. And so all of your access points will have a DMZ section, and you can use that for your game consoles. Both wired and wireless, you can use DMZ. Wired and wireless both. So that's a little tip as well. If you're wanting to open up ports for gaming, is to use DMZ. All right? Questions? All right. Well, thanks for showing up. There's like 4 or 5 of them did show up tonight. I knew of 2. By the way, I don't know if you knew, the gentleman sit up here generally, he's moved for military. They moved. He's got another job 2 hours from here. He's still finishing his Cisco classes. He's taking this rest of the semester online. And then this gentleman here had a midterm that he had to take. But thanks for showing up. So see you Thursday. We're not going to be real long Thursday, but we'll get you started on the take home on Thursday for the password, finding out the best way to, is our password policy secure? And if it isn't, you'll give your little 2 cents on what you think about it. All right? See you Thursday.